Anyway, that was actually very abusive when she found that. But yeah, it was creative a lot of the time. That was my outlet.
Okay.
Music was the only thing there for me when I was suicidal.
Okay.
So I made it.
Now, another thing I was going to ask you is, you're 21, 2 now? 22? When did drugs and alcohol?
Lay at your auntie house.
Hello, everybody. My name is Pej. I'm here today with my friend Grace. We're going to be talking about how she has overcome her addiction and alcoholism and some traumas. Hi, Grace.
Hello.
So good to have you here again.
Yes.
So, want to talk to you about basically like some of your upbringing, your childhood. Was it a normal childhood?
No.
Okay, and what was not normal about it?
Mental and physical abuse.
Okay, and you lived in Southern California and Arizona, to my understanding.
Yes. So born in Georgia, went to Arizona, Southern and Northern California.
Okay, and what was the youngest age that you can recall first ever trying any kind of substance?
Being 12 years old.
And what kind of substance was it?
It started with marijuana,
Okay, and then after marijuana, it became what else?
alcohol, prescriptions.
Okay, and you would get these and use them. What kind of prescriptions did you know at the time?
I didn't know what they were at the time, but I just knew that I was trying to dissociate from reality. So I took as many as I, in my child brain, thought was okay.
And they weren't really prescribed to you; they were prescribed to somebody else, but your hands got on them. Okay, and so do you remember during that time, like, were you just fascinated by the way that it made you feel because it was numbing you out?
Yeah, it took me away from the pain I was feeling.
And the pain that you were feeling was probably some trauma that had happened in your life that you didn't want to think about. Right. So throughout your adolescence, what did that turn into? Was there a full-blown addiction that was immediate, or was there a lot of experimentation with various substances, and then over a period of time it just became more and more?
Well, I experimented with anything that I can get my hands on, and then it became a dependency once I learned what those things did, and then it became an addiction.
And you became dependent. Like, can you recall or remember what was the most addictive substance that you can remember that you were having a hard time not doing?
This is going to be controversial.
Okay, go ahead.
Marijuana.
That's okay. I mean, marijuana
It is what it is.
was a friend of mine for a long time. It seemed to have been serving its purpose. So, you had gotten into heroin
Yeah.
at what age?
I just turned 16.
And when you first did heroin, like, how did that even come about? Where was it?
It was in a tweaker den carport.
So, like, it was like some plug or some dealer or something like that?
It was just some man that ended up to be my soulmate, you know?
Soulmate.
Yeah. He was my
Do you want to
soulmate.
talk about that or
Sure,
explain?
yeah.
Okay, how was he your soulmate?
Okay, so my friend...
So-called soulmate, right?
So-called, situational soulmate.
Right.
So my friend, she said, "Hey, there's this guy. He has a bunch of weed. Why don't we go over and smoke all his pot?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." So we went over, and we were smoking his pot, and I was like, that was fun. I go back a few days later, and then 5 months go by, and my friend's pounding on the door. She says, "Where have you been? What have you been doing?" And I was like, "Come on, man. It's only been a week, maybe." No, it's been months.
Hanging out around those types of people and doing those types of things, like, because of your childhood, do you think because of some of the traumas and the issues that you had in your life, these made you kind of rebel against life and turned you into like a defiant young lady who then, or like more of a defiant youngster that became an adolescent that was like, let's try everything. Let's go mess around. Is that, do you think that you had that kind of mindset?
Yeah. No, I had
Kind
a
of like
death
crazy,
wish.
like, yeah, there was just no,
It's angst, resentment towards the world.
no fear. Was there fear?
No.
You kind of had paused a little
Well,
bit.
because I really want to know for sure. And I was like, nope, never feared anything. But
Right.
I don't. I don't think I
I mean, I
did.
think we all have fears, right?
I was like Satan worshiping in my music.
Okay. And
Walking real close to cars on the streets.
so what was it, like goth music that you were into?
Well, like you have all heard of Lil Peep was
Yeah.
an influence.
Okay.
So I, played off of that. I was just a very dark person.
Okay, but Lil Peep was a rapper. Like,
Yeah, he was.
Was he a dark rapper?
Yeah, he would talk a lot about suicide.
Okay, and then how did he end up dying?
He overdosed.
He overdosed.
He did.
Now, And this is someone that you kind of like admired
Yeah.
when you were in a Mac Miller and things like that too?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. And he overdosed.
You did.
So
Yeah, I did.
down the line, how did you quit heroin and why?
So quitting heroin wasn't my decision. In a heroin come down rage, I got arrested and I went to juvenile hall. Before that, though, I was in a psych ward because, like I said, I was really suicidal, so I would self-harm. And so when I went to juvenile hall, I wasn't just in juvenile hall, I was in the bubble, which has no privacy at all,
When you say
coming down from heroin.
okay, when you say self-harm, do you mean cutting yourself or threatening suicide or what?
Well, cutting myself, burning myself, just
And these were other forms of self-abuse that you would do to yourself to overcome, to alleviate pain that you were feeling, like emotional turmoil and things like that?
yeah. Even with how many drugs I would do, I overdosed twice before I even went to juvenile hall.
Okay. And then in juvie, like when you went to juvie, you basically had to dry out and withdraw and all the pain that comes with heroin addiction. Now, when you how long were you in juvie for?
I was in there for about 3 months.
Okay. And then when you got out, like heroin wasn't of any interest to you anymore?
Well, I was on probation. They gave me a shot at house arrest.
Okay.
So that, it's a tricky story because I would do heroin with my soulmate guy's mom.
Right.
I would go back to the heroin den and I would get high with her for a little bit. Eventually violated my probation.
Now, were there times when you were attempting to stay sober, like when you were on probation, for example? Not at all?
No.
Was there a condition with your probation to stay sober?
Of course. I mean, they drug tested me. I thought I could work around it with these drinks that I got from the smoke shop.
Okay, the ones that flush out your system.
Yeah, but not for consistent use, which after a while I was too high to remember that.
Okay. So what were you using during that time?
Mostly cocaine.
Okay, and then how old were you when you were doing coke?
17.
How was a young girl getting her hands on this expensive drug?
Well, I was a housekeeper, so that funded, no. And
Yeah.
not completely, though. I mean, I was with 30-year-old men, 25, 27. My best friend was a 27-year-old woman.
Okay.
I look back, she was a good person. It's just,
And they would give,
you know.
these men or people would give you these drugs to basically say, like, let's have fun.
Well, I remember they would let me drive their car. I lived in their apartment. They would give me money. I would go pick it up. I remember driving on the freeway and spilling it all over and then tweaking out on the car. It was just...
Episodes.
A lot of people have left me to my own devices.
Uh-huh.
So I had the means.
Okay. Educationally, like growing up, did you finish high school?
Yeah. Well, yeah, on probation.
What do you mean on probation?
I was sent to this place called Yerington, Nevada.
Okay.
Look it up on Google Maps.
All right.
When you see nothing, that's what it is.
What is it?
It's just a cow farm in Nevada.
And you graduated from there?
I did. The trailer park, so they had this stipulation where when you're about to turn 18, you move to another house on the base of Mount Tahoe. That's what I did. If I graduated high school and turned 18 in this system, I qualified for this law called AB 12.
Okay, I know AB 12.
So I pulled that off.
Any college or anything like that after?
Yes.
And what did you go to school for?
I'm currently going to school for my audio engineering degree.
But I'm talking
When I
before
was
you
in high
got
school?
sober.
Oh, before I got sober.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing.
Well, when you speak, you sound educated. So even though, I mean, you finished high school, right?
Yeah.
Were you a reader? Did you read a lot of books?
Yes. I love to read, and that's where I actually started to make music. I would write a lot of poetry, just write a lot of stories randomly. Did we talk about my brother yet?
I think so.
Well, when my brother was born, just around that time, I wrote a story about a brother and a sister where they're like sinking in quicksand, and my mom found it, and she thought I was writing about my actual brother, and I was just writing a random story. Anyway, that was actually very abusive when she found that. But yeah, I was creative a lot of the time. That was my outlet.
Okay.
Music was the only thing there for me when I was suicidal.
Okay.
So I made it.
Now, another thing I was going to ask you is, you're 22 now? 22? When did drugs and alcohol become a problem for you? Like, around what age?
I would honestly say it was when I was 12.
12, but between 12 and 22, how long are you sober right now?
About 4 months
4 months.
from alcohol, marijuana.
So when it became a problem, when did it become a crisis, like to where you're like, I have to get sober?
I was ordering research chemicals off of the internet, and I would continually overdose on them.
Would you mind like specifying? Was it
Yeah.
phenibut or what was it?
It was called flubromazolam, clonazole, midazolam.
And these were, how would you take these?
They were water soluble, so I would, get some water bottle, and the dosage was a tip of a toothpick. But when you're nodding off,
How does it make you feel? Is it an opiate?
it's a benzo.
It's a benzo. So
So I was just gone.
it would just make you nod off? Interesting.
Yeah. That's when I kind of realized, I mean, I didn't want to admit it,